All right, welcome back, Inebri-art. This is Andy, and I think this is like episode 399. This is either right before or right after our 400th episode. I'm not sure what order these are coming out. I
Wow.
kind of lost track. But today we're joined by Jenny Parrott, who her LP Love Spell drops today as we're recording, right? June 28th. Did I have that right?
Yes,
That's
today.
that's exciting. Thank you for taking the time out. When your LP drops, is there like extra stuff that you guys need to do? Or is it just kind of like that happens like beyond you?
You kind of have to do a lot before
Yeah.
to make it to the midnight deadline or whatever. Like, so it came out 11 hours ago, and you had to upload it and distribute it and all that, and then you have to get in the van and go on tour
Yeah.
and play the shows.
Is that
Yeah.
is that why you had so much Red Bull yesterday?
Oh, for real? Yeah, we
Yeah.
played in Austin Saturday, and then we made it to play Philly on Wednesday.
Wow, that's a ride, man. Like that's
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love I love Philly. You're saying you had family in Mass. I have family in Philly, and
Oh, cool.
so I get down there once in a while. Uh, are you still there? Are you like on your next trip or
We're in Brooklyn at the moment, and we
Brooklyn? Okay.
played Queens last night, and I guess it's Manhattan tonight. I thought it was Brooklyn, but I don't know my boroughs very well.
So you're basically just like living in a van for how long? Like you're in full tour?
Uh, we're on tour for a couple of months. There's only 2 weeks of really dense shows, and the rest is hopefully going to be visiting friends and family and keeping our toddler out of that Texas heat.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's
Because
gotta be
this
brutal.
summer, yeah, I don't. It's too crazy to. It's too hot.
um, so what's the idea behind Love Spell? Like, is it? I mean, it sounds
Uh,
like it's a bunch of love songs, but
yeah, it's 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 a kind of manifestation of a wish for how I want to see the world. And I hope that when people like listen to it, that they think about what kind of love they want to see in the world and what kind of love they would like to give and receive. And it's about concepts of platonic love, spiritual love, some romantic love, but it's just like um it's kind of supposed to be a spell and a meditation on how to do love better
yeah,
and all the
that I feel like as I get older, that's progressively harder. I get more cynical and
Mhm.
cranky and ornery and
Yeah, me too. That's why I
yeah.
had to practice trying to be nice.
Yeah.
So, like my intention is to be as good a friend and community member, parent, all that as I can be, but sometimes you got to put some thought into it and practice.
Yeah, it's not easy. And it's I think a lot of it has to do with perspective where, it's like you may not be having a great day or someone may be rude to you and it might be because they're going through, some shit. You don't know what's going on in their life and trying to not take someone in line cranky at you as a personal attack that you need to defend against, and just be like, all right, well,
Yeah, and you can be like, well, I've been that cranky person, and yeah, I just um want to try to be kinder and everyone to have kind of like a little more gentle and soft life. And that's a big prayer for times like these. So,
yeah. Is that something that came out of having a young child where you're like, this is like what? Because I am, I was telling you right before we started, I just got interviewed by my kids for our 400th episode, and it
I
was,
love that.
it was so great. It was fantastic. And, I see a lot of myself in them, but they're adults now. And just some of the feedback and like interesting thing, like it's so hard to see life through someone else's eyes. And they're like, oh, this was a big moment. I remember this when talking to you, and I'm like, I don't remember that at all, but I remember this, which, and it's like, do you kind of think about
Definitely.
those things with your
Definitely, like sometimes people are like, okay, so our kid, Juno, he'll be 2, and he's on tour with us, and we have a wonderful nannyger, we like to call him.
manager? That's amazing.
And he's definitely, people are like, he's not going to remember. And I'm like, well, he might not remember, but his nervous system will remember that his parents and their friends were capable of doing hard things
Hmm.
without losing their
Yeah.
shit. No, not that we need to be perfect and like say the right thing all the time, but like there's a lot of problem solving that goes into a tour like this.
Hmm.
And there's a lot of problem solving that goes into having a toddler. And with like a toddler, the more and angry you get, the worse everything gets real fast.
Yeah. I
But
remember when mine were little, people would be like, "Oh my God, your babies are so happy," and I'd be like, "Yeah, because we're happy to have them." And it was
oh,
just like so many people are, maybe not necessarily ready or didn't plan on having a kid, and so it can be very stressful, and they're not, maybe not in the best headspace. Not that I'm always in the best headspace, but they're like a reflection of you, and it's like if they see you being
yeah.
happy, they're generally going to be happy.
Yeah, and we were joking on this trip already that like touring with a toddler is no worse than or no harder than touring with the worst musician you've ever been on the road with.
I could definitely see that. Um, I work a lot with artists of all shapes and sizes, and it is very much like herding cats. And
Yeah,
everybody wants to be the center of attention and most important person. You
you
know,
can't pick up the drummer and put them in their chair. That would not be appropriate, but you can pick up the
that'd be
kid and put it.
super funny though. Just, you're in timeout now. I'm taking your drumsticks.
You need to go to your quiet spot and count to
I
10,
feel like this
Daniel.
this is one of those social media posts where it's like, what can you say to a toddler that you can say to a touring musician?
Put that in the sink.
That's great.
Uh,
Um, do you? I feel like when most musicians start, that's kind of like the quote unquote rock star thing they want to do is like tour and play in all these different places. Is it what it's cracked up to be? Like, is it what you had thought? Is it going to be? Is it harder?
it's much harder and much more magical than I thought. Um, I've done a lot of tours with different bands and projects, and uh, last night, 2 of my friends came from Austin, and we did a co-bill, and it was their New York debut, and they were super nervous, and we played at the Keep in Queens, and we had a magical show, and they were talking about all the musicians are sitting around after talking about experiences, and like sometimes you play and there's 300 people there, but like nobody's paying attention.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes there's 7 people and y'all are feeling it, and that is the magic that you strive for with all the planning and the practicing and the driving are those moments of connection. So uh it's both harder and more rewarding than I thought before I ever went on tour, like 20 years ago.
Yeah, that's really cool. And I mean, that's the thing is, it's like, if it wasn't difficult, that I hate that it's so generic, but like if it wasn't hard, everyone would do it, kind of thing. And it's like it it means that you really love it and really enjoy doing it because you're willing to suffer through the bullshit that you have to deal with just for that, you know, payoff at the end.
Hmm. And I'm just trying to, as the leader of this kind of tour right now, I'm just trying to make sure everyone is fed and hydrated and is getting at least 2 hours of sleep a night.
Too.
I'm just kidding on the
Yeah.
last.
But should you feel that more pressure because it's like your name, your tour that you are responsible for?
I
Like,
don't think so. I
yeah.
just trust that it's gonna work. It's gonna be fine. And If there are mistakes or messes, we'll fix them, and then there's going to be awesome moments, and just sort of trying to be chill about it and trying to stay present because
It, it,
that's how
I,
we get through the chaos.
that is, I feel like that is the key. Is so many times we do things and we schedule events and book guests or whatever. And if you stop and like really think about it, I just like panic attacks ensue. And I just have
Oh
to kind of,
yeah.
and I just kind of have to be like, it's fine. It'll all work out. It's always worked
Yeah.
out before. And when it hasn't been a big deal. And, it'll be
Yeah.
fine. It'll be great. You know?
I definitely have imposter syndrome about like everything I do in my life. Not all the time, but it's there. And lately I've been trying to like call that voice in my head. I'm like, no, you're a little bitch. No, you're a bitch. I
Yeah.
can do this. I'm literally currently doing this. Fuck off. And I don't know if they like my new attitude, but I do.
You don't know if the voice likes your new attitude?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's so funny. It's that like I was thinking about it when you were saying how you've been touring for 20 years and you had friends that just came out from New York, from Austin to New York. And it's like I remember sitting with other friends who had businesses and whatnot, and kind of like those people where you're like, "Ooh, I want to be there someday." And they're
Mm-hmm.
telling war stories. And now, like when we get together, it's like we all have war stories. And you're like, "Oh shit, I'm kind of like I never worked to be in that crowd, but I just am in that crowd now." Where you're
Yeah.
like, "Oh, I have weird stories too. Let me tell you what happened this time." And it
Yeah.
just kind of creeps up on you.
You put in the time, you put in the work, you develop a resume or become that person that you want to be, or as close as the real thing can get to the image.
Where do you do you ever have like that kind of end goal, or are you always, because I don't feel like I ever do. I don't ever get to score the touchdown because if like it gets to that point, I just move the goal line and I want to do more and push harder. Like, are
Yeah.
you content where you are? Do you want to be like T Swift? That pot, like God forbid anybody get that
No,
far.
I would never hoard vinyl from a
Yeah.
never. I never want to be a billionaire. I think if you're a billionaire, you probably dehumanize yourself and other people. So I don't know. I'm pretty content. Like, of course, it would be great if I had more of a following and more resources or money or whatever. But like when I look back on being who I was when I was a little girl who loved singing, my mind would be blown that I had done any of this,
Yeah.
So, uh, yeah, on in my good days, I just feel lucky and proud of what I've done after I yell at that inner voice, the mean inner voice. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like,
It's
yeah. So
that that
I feel proud. I don't think I have an end goal. I think every time I write a song that I think has possibility or is good, I just want to see if I can use that music to connect with people and musicians. So that's kind of like a micro goal. I hope I
yeah.
never stopped it.
Yeah, that was one of the things that came up when I was talking with my kids the other day, is like those weird connections that you don't plan. I see numbers and statistics from downloads, but meeting one person like face to face who's like, "Oh, I listen to your podcast," is just mind blowing. Just because it's like, "Oh my god, that number represents a human being." And
A soul and everything.
yeah, and it's
Like
like you
work.
listen to more than one. Oh god.
Yeah, we played with these bands in Philly the other night and like uh my friend Shane Cooley and they kept texting us the day after the show about how much they liked our show. And we've known them for years, but it was like these gushy, squishy messages of love.
Yeah.
And it was so sweet. And I was like, oh my God, my friends get it.
See, I feel like you're better adjusted than me because anytime friends are like that, I'm like, "Oh, don't be nice to me. It makes me feel uncomfortable. Like I can't
Stop
take.
it.
Yeah, be mean to me. I feel that makes me happier." And so you're cool with taking compliments, and like, how do I do that? I,
Oh God. I think it's one of those things where you have to say thank you and mean it without deflecting or whatever, because I don't know. I think if there's an etiquette AI answer to this question, I think you're
Yeah.
supposed to say thank you and like feel something other than
Mm.
imposter syndrome.
I was gonna say I don't understand at all what you're saying because all I do is deflect. Anytime someone's like, "Oh, this was so great," I'm like, "Yo, let's keep that bar low. I like getting over low bar, you know." And
Andy, you're very good at interviewing people.
oh, stop. I'm gonna delete that.
Cool. Okay. Yeah,
Yeah,
you weren't joking.
yeah. Oh no, I'm not. It does, and it's I know it's my hang up. Like I have always struggled with like self esteem stuff. So anytime it's not being in front of people that bothers me. Like I've been on stage like most of my life in some way or the other, but it's that kind of like the person being like, "Hey, you're good at insert anything," and I'm like, "Ugh, don't do that."
Yeah, but I guess getting back to the love spell and the wanting people to be softer and gentler, like that'd be something I'd put into that wish list too, that those of us who struggle with self-esteem and taking compliments can feel a little smoother.
Yeah, yeah. It's and I think a lot of it goes to creative people in general are their toughest critics.
Oh yeah.
I,
Oh
I,
yeah.
and I always say I'm like we're so unique because like if you're a fan of music, you love that song, you hate that song. If you've written a song or done a drawing, it's like you can both love and hate the same thing at the exact same time, and
Totally.
it's like that
Um,
shouldn't happen.
I totally drive my husband Gary crazy. He's in the band and he's kind of like the musical leader of the tour. But while making the album in the last year, I listened to it hundreds of times on different speakers, this and that, and I'd be like, "Oh, this is the shit! I finally did it." And then the next week, I'd be like, "This is humiliating. Who let me record this? Which one of you said I
Yeah,
should make another album?" But
and
it's
he's like,
like
it hasn't changed. It's the same thing.
it's literally the same. It's you, and I'm like,
Yeah,
no. But
yeah.
yeah, so that's real, and it's just real. I know all kinds of performers who get so nervous that they like right up until they get on stage, they wish they weren't going, or like the show could be canceled and there's a snow day. But then when they're in the middle of it, they're like flying high and they're like, oh
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, and it's I find my favorite thing to do is draw, and it's
Oh,
very
cool.
therapeutic and relaxing, and when it's done, I can show off and be like, oh, I really like this drawing, and someone else be like, I really like it too. I'll be like, I mean, like that arm is like a little too short, and the likeness isn't quite dead on, and they're like, shut up, I just said, and it's that, which I think part of it
Yeah.
is good because I think that's what pushes us to be better in some ways. So
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of like
Mm-hmm.
this double-edged sword where being unhappy makes me strive more. That's what I'm going to go with. That sounds healthy.
Being human is super weird. I
Yeah.
I can't explain it. I'm trying to steal, but yeah, we're weird creatures. We're like, love me, stop.
Yeah. But do it exactly the way we're cats. Like,
Oh my God,
pet
you're
me
right.
exactly the way I want you to, and then go away.
Or I will
Or
run
I'll bite
away
you.
and I'll knock over your drink.
So you're on tour with your husband and he's in the
Hmm.
band. Is that more challenging? This seems to be like a very common thing in interviews lately where people are on tour with their significant other or the significant others in their band. Um, is that challenging? Uh, is it easier? Do you have like kind of like a shorthand where you can be like, no, 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 this other thing, and you don't even like use real words, and they go, oh, okay, yeah, yeah, yeah,
Kind of, yeah. I mean, Gary and I have toured together, I don't know, a dozen or more tours before we had a kid. And so we know how to flow, we know how to set up our gear. We know kind of like a basic division of labor that's unspoken. And I mean, of course it can be challenging because we're doing this and we have a kid, but we know how to dance together. And I would say it flows pretty well.
yeah. I love that. We
He's
know how to dance together like that.
Yeah.
That
Yeah. And
that
like,
says it all right there.
yeah. So yeah, it can be hard and there's hard moments, but nothing that usually can't be solved by like a nap and some good coffee,
Yeah. Naps are great.
deep breaths.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just like the basics. Like, uh-oh, I feel morale is low. Let's get a latte.
And so that, like I said, this has been coming up a lot. And in my life, I'm gonna be 50 in like 6 months.
Whee!
And I've never been in a relationship with a creative person. And considering I'm single, I'm like, maybe that's my problem. Maybe I need to be in a relationship with a creative type, musician or artist of some kind. And is it, do you feel, because we're weird. I mean, creative people kind of have our own way of doing things. Do you feel that that is part of what makes you guys work? Is they kind of understand that?
Yeah, I think so. Before we even ever dated, like Gary was super supportive of my music and we played together and stuff. So I think being a woman in this industry can be really hard. And so if you have a partner or even a friend or any colleague who just looks at you and gets it and is like, I'm on board, that is valuable as hell. It's so
Yeah.
valuable. It feels good to be part of like a team that's competent and excited and all that. We're also on the road right now with a great bassist and singer, Georgia Parker. And, we're not romantically involved, we're platonically involved. And having her around, she knows how to dance too. She
Yeah.
knows how to tour. She knows how to set up her stuff, be helpful, sing on key, party a little, not too much. She gets it. So it's like, anything like finding people who get you and want to collab is so special. So
Yeah.
it's
And
so cool.
when
Yeah.
you collaborate like that with, a band member or fellow artist, it is different than a friendship because it's somehow closer. But
Hmm.
I get it. You're like, we're not together, but like, and I always
We have a
joke
lot
because,
of threads together.
yeah,
Yeah, we're very connected and we belong to each other. We're on the road in a van doing a hard thing. So we belong to each other. So we have to take care of each other.
yeah, that's awesome. Um, is it like, does your husband do his own stuff under his like name,
Hmm.
or is he? Yeah,
Yeah, his project is called Sweet Gary, and he's a pedal steel genius, a guitar genius. Any instrument he can just pick up and make it sing. He's amazing. So yeah, he has an experimental pedal steel album that came out last year called Pink Pedal Steel, and he also plays in probably 5% of the 20,000 bands in Austin.
oh, he's one of those guys.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
He has supported our little family for the last 2 years playing guitar and pedal steel.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, he works his ass off and yeah, he does a lot of
Yeah.
music.
Um. So in the press release, it had you listed, I believe, as experimental folk. I think is what how they had it. Um. Do you feel like that's an accurate description? Because I was trying to like, I was listening to some of your music this morning and be like, how do I? Labels are gone. And so sometimes I try to relate, be like, oh, I think you sound kind of like this band and hope they don't hate that band. But like I was
Right.
kind of at a loss where I'm like, I don't know how to accurately describe it. Like I couldn't
Me
I couldn't
too.
find a frame of reference. As I'm like, and I'm like, in some ways it kind of like reminds me of Sonic Youth, which is weird. Um,
Sick.
and then like, but I'm like, I just felt like I'm like, it doesn't feel folky. It maybe more singer songwriter. It's so hard. Like how do you, for someone who's never listened, how do you kind of like be like, oh, we're kind of, we're like insert whatever.
Right. I've been saying it's folk and soul music for people who like the X-Files. because there's electronic parts to the album and the show.
Yeah.
So it's not, pure folk. It's not like mandolins and banjos or whatever. But um I think also sometimes my songwriting is really simple, like a lot of folk songs can be like.
Hmm.
So I think that, and I'll have to sing about nature and folksy stuff.
Yeah.
Just doing spells, just
Have you had
stuff.
people come back and go,
Um,
"What's the X Files?"
no, everyone laughs, and I feel
Okay.
like it's a good thing to say because it's a point of reference. Like, okay, so she's silly and a little weird, and what is she talking about? But I think it lets people know, like, I don't know, the show has electronic music in it as well
Yeah.
as folk element. I also really love soul and R&B, and I love harmony. So I really had my friends who sang on the album, like I was like, let's layer the harmonies. They don't have to be perfect brother harmonies like Shangri-La style. Let's stack it up and make it really vocal.
Yeah.
Um and I don't say that usually when I describe it, but I sometimes am like, oh, it's a trio and everybody sings, like hoping that that will convey what we're doing. But
Yeah.
yes, genre language is super hard. And
It gets harder by the day, I swear,
yeah, when I like go online to put my music in, Apple or Spotify or whatever distributor, they make you pick genres. And I like sometimes they don't even have folk. And then they have like
Oh, weird.
60 things and I don't even know what like half of them are. I'm
I was
like,
gonna
oh,
ask that because like I worked
yeah.
during COVID lockdown, I worked at a craft beer store and everyone is trying to be different with the same like half dozen ingredients. And I remember there was a can that was labeled California Surf Lager, and someone asked it like, "What does that mean?" I go, "I don't know. A surfer sweating it? Like that sounds like
Oh,
absolute nonsense." It's
yeah.
just a
Yeah.
lager, and I feel like music can kind of be that way where someone's like trying to be
Yeah.
distinctively
I
different.
think that's
Yeah,
our new genre. We're surf logger.
surf lager. There you go.
Surf
Folk
logger
surf
means
lager.
I would go see a band that said that. I'd be like,
I'd be
I
like,
like
I would
beer.
be like, what the hell's that?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
let's go see. But yeah, I never have a good answer for that, and depending on how what kind of mood I'm in, I say folk music for people who like the X Files, or I'm like, it's complicated. Just listen.
I used to ask people a lot, be like, oh, what band would it make sense for you to go on tour with, like in
Hmm.
support, and be like, oh, that would make sense because sometimes you can have a totally different vibe but still work with this other. And half the time they'd give bands, I'm like, cool, I don't know who those people are either, and you're
Yeah.
like, so it's. I'm trying to find a good like litmus test to be like, it's 1980s. What five genres would you put your band in? Because
We are going on tour supporting Kate Bush, and she has no idea who
oh,
we are, never
th-
speaks to us, and there are fairies and elves on the tour. That's how I would describe it.
there you go. That's amazing. That'd be killer. She's going through like such a revival because of Strange Things.
I know.
Yeah.
That was so cool. Wasn't that like the first time someone had like a top 40 hit with the same song 40 years later or
40s.
whatever?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. And it
That's
was
so
weird
cool.
because I was really unfamiliar with Kate Bush, and I was like, "How do you not know Kate Bush?" I'm like, "I don't." Maybe it was in my Anthrax phase. I don't know. Um, yeah. So it's just weird. Like sometimes you miss major chunks of like you can't know everything.
Yeah, of course not. Okay, now I can't stop thinking about your question, like what band you would open for. So okay, in this Fantasyland, we're
It's a
opening
good
for Kate.
question.
It's a great question.
Yeah.
And the end of our tour is a festival hosted by Enya at her castle. You know
Ooh.
Enya the
Oh yeah, 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 yeah.
Yes.
That's intriguing. One of my other
Sail
favorites.
away,
I'm gonna
sail
ask you.
away,
I'm
sail
gonna ask.
away.
I'm gonna ask you another question. This is completely unrelated, but you just made me think of it. It is one of my favorite. Who buys the next round kind of question, and um the if there's a tie, the bartender has to determine the final vote. But it is what is your most embarrassing concert to go to? Like that you don't like to admit.
Oh, I don't believe in that. I'm sorry. I think if you like something, go and enjoy it. Who
Yeah,
cares?
but sometimes we don't always go for things we like, you know? I had so the
Oh, you
conversation
mean like someone forced you to go, or what do you mean?
kinda, yeah. So like
Oh,
like the big debate we were having at the last time we did this was my buddy had gone to Debbie Gibson at like the height of Debbie Gibson to meet girls. And I was arguing that because I saw Yanni, I felt that was worse because I didn't get like guilt trip, but it was like my ex-wife and her grandmother wanted to go see, so she bought us all tickets, and I was like, all right, whatever. It was
was
still
it?
fun. It was still fun, but it's not like you're not like, oh man, I just went and saw Yanni. Like, there's no street cred with that.
I feel like I am giving you a lot of street cred. Like you were at the Acropolis. That's cool.
Oh no, no, it was here in Mass.
I'm just kidding.
It was at the Crapopolis. There you go.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
That is, I don't know. That sounds fun to go to a Yanni concert.
It was a good time.
Um,
I didn't have a bad time, but it is just that one of those guilty pleasures that, when you listen off bands you see that there's always one that you're like, I mean, I saw them, but yeah, I
I'm
don't brag
sorry, I don't
about it.
think I have a good answer for that
Oh,
question.
okay. All right. All right.
Um,
You're probably a nicer person than me.
now I'm evil. It's okay. Yeah, I don't have a good answer for that. Also, I don't get out much.
Yeah.
I mean, I know I'm on tour right now, but when we're at home, I don't get out much because
You have a 2-year-old.
Gary's out. Yeah, I have a
Yeah.
2-year-old. So I'm like, going to a concert? Dude, let's
that
cool. Let's go see Rappy. Who cares? Rappy's shit.
does he is he already into music? Does he?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, we have like an upright piano in our living room, and we have the inexpensive guitars accessible to him, and he knows he can only play them if he's gentle.
Yeah.
So he likes to jam, and he'll stare at Gary while Gary's noodling and we're making food and stuff, and he'll
Yeah.
sing with us. Yeah, he likes it.
It's so like even if they don't end up in a career or whatever, it's so good to have a like creative outlet. And one of the things that we do is we run kind of like these paint night type things where we paint beer
Yeah.
mugs and bongs and all sorts of shit. And one of the funnest things is kind of like getting these people outside of their like, oh, I can't do that. And you're like, no, you can. You just you think the only way to quote unquote do it is to do Starry Night. Like you just do you, and it's
Right.
about having fun and enjoying the process. And last night we had this woman who was like so anxiety ridden about starting to paint this dog bowl, and I'm like, well, start. And I just gave her like very vague, like, why don't you start in the middle, and then it like you can grow from like out, and just like that simple thing. And then like I look over and I'm like, what were you worried about? I'm like, it looks fantastic. I'm like, and they're just it's something about being like that little kid where everything is accepted. Like, yeah, cool. You can paint, you can draw, you can sing. And then like middle school, suddenly you can't do any of it because
You
you're
need to
not.
focus on your career, young person.
Yeah. And
If you're not
if you're not perfect
monetize
at it.
that,
Yeah.
yeah. I
So,
definitely grew up feeling the same way. And like we talked about the imposter syndrome thing, but like sometimes I teach voice lessons, sometimes I teach songwriting workshops, and I'm like, y'all, sing bad, write a bad song. It's just steps towards something you're gonna like.
yeah.
Don't be embarrassed. In fact, write a terrible song on purpose. Like it's just part of learning to do anything. Like you're not gonna run a 5K if you've like never jogged before, but it doesn't mean you can't walk and jog around the block for a couple months until you can run a mile or whatever. Like
Yeah.
it's okay to be slow. It's okay. I think too, especially with the creative stuff, like I think music is like a medicine, it's healing, and I feel sad that like we as a culture we like to gatekeep and limit so much. It's like this is actually like I don't know. You have this great gift, even if you think it's crappy, and
Yeah.
it can serve you and it can connect you to others. And it's okay if you sing in all 12 keys at once.
And you're right. I think a lot of it is gatekeeping, but I think a lot of it is that inner voice where, we see Prince, but we only see the stuff that Prince puts out. Like you don't see
Right.
the like I guarantee Prince has written shitty songs because
Yeah.
every artist makes crap.
Yeah, and you don't like write Purple Rain on day one.
No.
Like I don't know how many hundreds or thousands of pieces of music he wrote, but like yeah, yeah. It takes practice and that's natural. It's great. It's good for you.
Yeah. And people just think it's that and that's why I hate the word talent
Yeah.
because people
Yeah.
think that's just like, oh, you just can do that. And be like, no, I worked my ass off to be able to do that. And it's a
Yeah.
skill that I learned, you know.
Yeah. I had people tell me I was like tone deaf when I was a teenager. And I was like, I disagree. I don't even really know what that means. It sounds bad.
Sounds like you're trying to hurt my
But
feelings.
sounds like you don't
Yeah.
want me to sing and I'm a teenager. Like, what
Yeah.
the hell? Like, why would you tell anyone that they can't sing? And then I just kept with it because I'm obsessed, have been since I could like talk. I'm obsessed with singing. And so, yeah,
Yeah.
here I am.
You're doing it for 20 years. I mean, I think,
Yeah.
you showed them.
Yeah. Ha ha ha. Stinkers.
If anyone's going to hurt my feelings, it'll be me.
It'll be me, okay? Only I talk to me like that.
Jenny, this has been so much fun. But before we go, where can people go to get the new LP Love Spell, which drops today? So by the time this act goes out, they should be able to get it wherever it should be up for sale.
Yeah, it's available streaming all the places you stream music, Apple, Spotify. I have a website, jennyparrott.com, two R's, two T's and Parrot. And all my merch and stuff is available there. So
Are your
yeah.
tour dates there too? I
Yes.
assume.
Yes. So the
Nice.
tour dates are there. Yeah.
Coming to Massachusetts anytime soon?
Tomorrow. We play in
Tomorrow.
Sheffield.
Where the
Yeah.
hell's Sheffield?
It's in the Berkshires,
Oh, you're
uh
way the hell up there. Yeah. Okay.
near the state line of New York.
That's
Yeah.
far.
So we're playing a festival there tomorrow.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nice. Awesome. Well, maybe if you come more, to the real part of Massachusetts, the Riv. You come to the Riv.
Rib. Yes, I'm going to the Rib next week to visit my cousins.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Do
but
they
not
say
to play.
do they say use guys?
Uh, no, they don't. But some
Um,
of them drop their cars. Some of them are Portuguese, and there's a whole lot of fun language fun happening in that section of my family tree.
yeah, I
Yeah.
my one of my last real jobs, I traveled from store to store for Home Depot, and I used to cover the Fall River store, and it was just
Okay.
like, you guys gotta do the, and I'm like, okay, stop saying that. That drove me crazy.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I think my family probably like hurts inside anytime they hear me say y'all.
Yeah, oh, for sure. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I definitely give
But
my
you know, we
friends.
all have our version of the you plural.
Yeah,
Y'all, you guys. Um, yeah, thank you for having me. What a wonderful conversation. And
thank
like I
you,
said
thank
before,
you,
you're very good at
thank
interviewing
you. All
people.
right, stop, 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 stop. Don't make me compliment you. No, it was an absolute pleasure. I had a really good time, and
Yes.
I've always said my favorite podcasts are when a stranger enters and a friend leaves, and I feel like I can say that today.
Aw,
And
yes.
and I loved your find someone you can dance with or knows how you dance, that kind of idea, and
Yeah.
that's a really sweet
Yeah.
sentiment. So I think there's no better way to end other than that. So listeners, you can always find us back next Monday. We will have another episode up, and it may be the 400th episode. It may be the 402nd episode. I've lost track of how they're going to come out. But I'm just going to say to our listeners, thank you for sticking with us for all those episodes. And we'll try to
Yes,
do
listeners.
more. And Jenny, anytime, you're welcome back. Thank you so much. And listeners, we'll catch you guys next week.
Bye.
And thanks for checking out the show today, listeners. If you enjoyed the content today, you can go over to patreon.com/Inebri-art to support the show. You can join over there for just a few dollars a month and help us provide this fun content that you just checked out. You can also email us at Inebri-art.com with your questions, complaints, and concerns, or you can find us on all social medias at Inebri-art or at Inebri-art6 on Instagram. And also don't forget to check out our other shows, Bar Talk Podcast, Old Colony Cast, Inebri-art, and all the other shows on the Inebri-art Network, which you can find at Inebri-art.com. So thanks again for listening.